Welcome back to the Pete Souza Show, presented by Slovacics. We had to cut the commercial short because we're not making Artie Kempner wait any longer. Let's bring him in here. Monday Night Football director, Artie Kempner. Artie, so happy and so appreciative of you taking the time to join us this morning.
Pete, it's good to be here. I was just watching a Babble commercial, so we're about to start babbling.
Babble? It is time to babble.
Hey, we're kind of neighbors. Like, we grew up around Villanova. I live in Wilmington, Delaware, so I'm pretty close by.
Dude, so did you used to do Sixers games?
I've done Sixers games, but not years ago when I worked at CBS, and I did some at Turner as well.
Oh, that's a long time ago. So Kevin Fisher is a buddy of mine. I did PR for the Sixers, so did Kevin. Yeah. And when I mentioned having you on here, he started to jump into the chat saying, "Oh, Artie Kempner's a legend."
He's a great dude. He helped me a lot. He actually got my son a little pass down on the floor, and it was fabulous. What a great guy. He ended up with the WTA. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years. I hope he's doing well. Good.
Oh, he's still return and serve down there in Florida. He's all good. He's good. WTA all the way. Hey, I amazing job again last night, and I have just some questions for you. I mean, this is kind of selfish of me to have you on, but I got so much curiosity about what you guys do and how well you do it. You know, I was a product of Al Michaels, Dan Deerdorf, Frank Gifford. It was really special Monday Night Football was special to me. And I see Monday Night Football as being special again. For you to be in that director's chair, you know, in the history of American television, there's really no bigger show than Monday Night Football. Do you feel the weight of that, Artie, at all?
I don't know if I feel the weight, Pete. I mean, I've had great jobs, like over the past 35 years, you know, working at CBS and then moving to Fox when we started that. But this is the premier job in all sports television. And to get that job, I don't know if I feel the pressure of it, but I just feel the extraordinary opportunity of it. And we have such an amazing team. And, you know, when you go from one place where you've been at 35 years and move to another place, you don't know what to expect. I mean, I'm working with basically the team that's been there for the past couple of years, and it's been great. I mean, Steve Ackles, Seth Miller, Audra Lineberg. I mean, these are great production people. And I'm kind of the beneficiary of a fabulous camera crew. And I feel I'm just selecting. I'm not doing a lot of directing. You know, I've got these great shots coming up from Steve Lowe and Dave Wojcik, you know, and it's fabulous to see the work that they do. And I just get a chance to show them off as much as anything.
As a director, how often are you in the ear of Troy or Joe? Because I call games for ESPN, college basketball, college football. You know, I sometimes wish I heard from the director more sometimes. I've never felt like I wish I heard from him less. That's just me. What's your philosophy on that? And is there a communication there? Because I've been on some shows, you know, on my level where there's been none at all.
Well, I think it does start with the producer, Steve Ackles. And just for your viewers to understand, it's kind of a head coach quarterback relationship between the producer and the director. He's our head coach. And we're kind of got a game plan that he sets up with Troy and Joe and with me and, you know, and with Lisa and Laura, how we're going to do things. And then once that game starts, you know, he's the main communicator with them. But, you know, I am a football guy, and I read a lot and I watch a lot, and I will hit Joe and Troy with some things here and there. But most of the communication does come from the producer. But I like to add a little, you know, a few things here, and, you know, like, you know, I get an opportunity. Why not? And if Joe says it, I still like a 12-year-old. I feel good. Joe said what I just told him.
So you kind of, just talking to you now, I've never met you before. You seem like somebody who'll bring a little levity to it as well.
I think levity was probably will go down on my tombstone. Yeah, I like to have fun with what we do. I mean, it can be for some people stressful to do what we do. It's deadline. You know, if you don't make a decision, it's like playing cornerback sometimes. You know, you make the wrong decision and somebody just whacks your butt for a touchdown. Now you got to get up and you got to play the next snap or the next series. So, you know, to have levity and for people to be able to relax a little bit, I think they work much better when they're able to feel like, hey, he doesn't want me to make a mistake, but if I make a mistake, he's not going to chew my butt out and make sure that, you know, he's not going to make me feel horrible. We're going to get back up and we're going to play. We're going to play the next down. We're going to play the next series, and we're going to do another great job. And that's kind of what you do as a leader.
We had a football game at UCF like 2 weeks ago. I was calling, and there was a brand new kid who was next to me, and he'd never done stats before. You know, it was just one of those things where they plugged him in, and I could tell he was terrified. And I said before the game, hey, just make sure you give me the coin toss while we're doing our open so I have it when we come back. So there was a lot of stuff going on pregame, as you know. And I go to the kid. I freaked out on him. I go, did you get the coin toss? You know, they hadn't done it yet. I go, did you get the coin toss? He's like, I don't know. I was like, don't worry, relax. They haven't done it yet. I'm like, let's enjoy it. Let's have fun, you know?
That's great because you set him up to kind of feel good and to succeed.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what you want to do when you got this team. And we have a team of like 185 really talented professionals at all levels. This show is as big as any show I've ever done. I mean, I guess only the Super Bowl, when we come to it on February 14, 2027, will be bigger than what we do each week. And everybody knows what they're doing. So they need that support, Pete, you know, and they need some guidance here and there on what you want is specifically. But then you let them do their job. And you kind of release this kid to say, hey, go do your job. Have fun doing it. And let's go kick some butt.
Yeah, it's sports, right? What's your philosophy as far as telling the story with pictures? Do you have a certain philosophy, like a core value you've stuck to all these years or have developed?
Well, I think the core value for me is I do this for the viewer. I don't do this for myself as a director, you know, as a creative person. I don't even consider myself a creative person. I'm a jock who loves sports. I live and love sports. So my feeling is I have to be the viewer when I direct. So it's not about some creative element that we put together. Is what does the fan and the viewer need to see right now? So I would say that's my core belief, Pete, and it will always be my core belief because we serve the viewer. That's our customer. You know, sometimes, yeah, sure, we have stuff we need to do for execs, you know, and we got to make sure that we get cool elements in. But most of the time, the key thing is timing and tone. When's the right time to do something? Is this, you know, and when you are able to do that for the viewer, you engage with them and they feel that you're in it with them rather than doing your own game. And, you know, often you see a lot of games where they're just doing their own thing. They're not thinking about what the viewer should be seeing. And I think that's where our philosophy at Monday night and what Ackles has brought with Joe and Troy is like, we're going to serve that viewer. It's not going to be about ESPN. It's not going to be about our creative flow. It's not going to be about ancillary things. It's going to be the primary thing. What's going on the field and what are we going to tell the fan?
As a director, you have the opportunity, especially on a show like Monday Night Football, you have so much innovation at your disposal, which is rare. How do you ration the usage of that innovation where you know, it's a football game, right? But at the same time, you guys are doing amazing things to move sports television forward.
Well, I think you always want to be innovative, but innovation is all about execution. It's not about having a toy. It's about making things a tool. So when we have the resources that we have on Monday Night Football, you've got to be really selective in how we use them. You know, sometimes I look at that monitor wall in front of me and I go, how the hell am I going to do this? I mean, there's so many choices. You know, you're looking and it's like, well, do I want that or that, that or that, that or that? You know, in my previous games when I'm doing a game with 13 cameras, it's enough choices, but now I have 30 choices. So I've got to do the best job of not getting into like the minutia and staying focused on what does the fan need now? Do they need a shot of Marlon Humphreys? Do they need a shot of Matabwikwe on the sideline? Do we need a shot of Derrick Henry? Do we need Jared Goff? You know, and what is going to tell the story? And I think that's when you make the best selections. And innovation at that point is not as much of a big deal as cutting cameras or going to cool replays or good replays that tell the story.
The excitement around Monday Night Football now, I really feel like is elevated and ramping up. And you mentioned the Super Bowls, right? That are in your future. As far as a show like that, it's the best kind of reality television. I always say
it's the only reality television. But keep going.
Don't tell my fiance that with the Real Housewives, dude. Don't tell her that. All right.
Oh yeah, they never redo a take on Real Housewives. It's exactly as it kind of came out the first time. Yeah, keep going, Pete. Move on.
So so the Monday Night Football being this great, the best kind of reality television, how do you know when to lean into the human drama as opposed to leaning into the football?
I think that's where it kind of comes down to really good producing, and for the booth, for Joe and Troy to kind of feel that. I feel it in the pictures I need to do, but it kind of emanates from our leadership, and Steve Ackles does a really good job. He's got a really good feel for the game. And I got to tell you, I didn't know that coming in. When I got this job, I knew Steve. I met him once, and now I feel like even after 3 games that we are moving in such a good direction because he's got a big picture feel and he's a fan of the game. So he's going to make these decisions, and lead Troy and Joe. And sometimes Troy and Joe are leading us, Pete. You know that is you lead, they lead. And I just think right now, the way we've been getting going, and we're really just getting into this as a team, the flow is moving in the right direction.
What's the number one thing people don't know about Monday Night Football and a broadcast like that, something that happens behind the scenes that would interest the fan, that would serve the viewer?
I mean, first off, I don't think people understand how hard Joe and Troy work. I mean, in being ready for this stuff, I really don't. It's not to just kiss their butts, but they work so damn hard. And then it's the people behind the scenes. We have such a great staff of people. John Parolin, who's our producer of research, like he makes sure that everything is documented and making sure that everything that Joe and Troy says is right. Right. And there's so many things that come down the pike. And then we have Jason Rickel and Ryan Charles in our graphics group, and they are like so tuned in, along with Tyler Churchill. So you've got this great team. And then up front with us, with Axe and me, we've got Seth Miller, a fabulous producer in his own right, who's doing replays. We've got Audra Lineman, who's kind of managing us along with Maddie Kessler. We have this team of people. That's what people don't know. There's this team, just like any football team out there. We've got a coaching staff, we've got a personnel group. We're always looking to do the best job we can, and that takes great people. And we've got great people on Monday Night Football.
I think some of the broadcasts, some of the shows like Monday Night are really able to separate themselves because of what you mentioned, the cohesion of that team. And it's not a knock on other, live sports, but I work with different producers all the time, and it's honestly an advantage for me. I get to know different people, meet different people in the industry, but it's so interchangeable, right? In a lot of trucks or a lot of control rooms, having one group spend so much time together. Like, do you guys share time off the field that leads to some of this great chemistry that we find our way to on Monday night?
Absolutely. It's, I think, one of the biggest, to me, it's almost like a covenant of how you do this job. I mean, we go out, like we were this great Little Italy in Baltimore pizza joint on Saturday night. Just 14 of us just hanging out. And, you talk about more than just the game. You talk a lot about the game. Yeah. Just so I make sure when I put it on my expense report, it gets approved. But really, the bottom line is we're talking about our families. We're talking about our likes and our, the things that motivate us. And you get to know people, and then you work better. This is just like any team, Pete. And you know that. I get to throw with the same receivers every game. You're working with a different receiver each week. How are you going to get really good when you're moving from producer to producer? I think when you're working with the same people week in and week out, especially on any show, forget about a big show like Monday night, even a 5-camera football game, you're always so much better off working as a group and developing as a group and talking candidly and honestly about how to make yourselves better.
For you, was there a moment when you knew you got better, a turning point in your career, like all the years you worked, right, on all the big shows, producing, directing? Was there a specific moment or time in your life or career that you can say, I turned the corner there and elevated? And why do you think that happened?
I will go back to 1983 and working as a broadcast associate with Richie Zients, who's the A producer for Fox. And we came up through the CBS ranks. And I'll tell you when I got better is when Richie said to me, we work as a team. You and me, we're the 2 BAs, right? The lone guys on the totem pole. We share the credit and we share the blame, and we do it together. And I think what Richie said to me back then has resonated for my entire career. And I've got a big ego because I'm a director, and I've got to kind of tamp that down. And Richie always helped me to do that. And even though sometimes I haven't been at my best self, that was the first time. And I would tell you, over the last 5 years, I think, as I've kind of moved late in my career, which I hope has another 15 years left in it, at least, because I love what I do, I work really hard on improving. I look at things really more diligently than I have. And I think maybe that comes with age and maybe slight wisdom. I'm not sure if wisdom would be a word people would use for me. Still learning patience, Pete, and still working hard to be the best version of myself.
I think people would be surprised. I mean, some of the best shows, there is a little bit of that creative tension in the truck at certain moments, right? I mean, because there's a lot on the line and because people really care, so that you're likely or not likely, but it's possible you can walk into a situation if you've never been there before and be like, wow, this is like a fireworks display behind the scenes, but that's the passion, right?
That is the passion, but you have to contain and control. Don't let the passion get out of control, right? I mean, that's the thing. You can be too up for something. I'm not going to tell you that our truck is quiet because I'm in it. I don't believe in a quiet truck, but I also know that there are times, when we do have to dial it down, and there are times we need to lift it up. And that's kind of what you do as a producer and a director with leadership. And you've got to get your people to respond. And we want them to respond in the most positive way, especially at the biggest moments. You've got to perform at your best when your best is required. And we try to put our people in that position to feel that they can do that.
Artie, man, this has been amazing. I got one last question for you. This is one for me as a play-by-play guy. Has there been someone that you have worked with? Maybe it was, someone of the ilk of Joe, right? But not Joe, because you're working with him now. A play-by-play guy that you held in such high regard that you met that really humanized things. And you were like, wow, this person is so special and successful, but they're just a regular dude and they call an amazing game.
I mean, you forget, I've worked with Pat Summerall. I worked with the dean of all play-by-play guys, the minimalist, the guy that could say 3 words and make you know exactly what was happening. I still go back to 1982 as a BA, and I was in the studio and I was clipping stuff and watching the Cowboys game against Washington, and Pat's call on an interception was Dexter Clinkscale. Could go, should go, will go, touchdown Dallas. It was 80-yard touchdown. That's all he did. And then I worked with Pat that following spring on golf, and Pat Summerall was just this regular guy. He was a legend, but he was a regular guy.
How was he able to do that? How was he able to be a minimalist, but yet to make such statements with such few words?
Well, he's brilliant. He was brilliant. Pat was brilliant. He just had this way about him. He was a great storyteller. You would sit on every word because there was always something coming next. And that's why he and Madden were so dynamic, in their day, because he was great setup guy. I feel the same way working with Joe and Troy, and not to get off your question, is that they play off of each other so well. They're great conversationalists. I love it when we don't have to do play, replay, because they get in these conversations. And, that's one of our goals now, is let them have these conversational talks, like where you're sitting on the couch with them as a viewer, and they're talking to you about the Mark Andrews story.
Yeah.
Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in the game over this generation, right? He just had the worst football game of anybody and of his life. And the way he's managed that, and they were able to talk about that early in the game after his first catch and develop that. That's what makes viewers, it makes them take notice. We make it personal. It's about the people. And when our people can make it about the people on the field, that's when you're really hitting home runs and scoring touchdowns.
I feel like I hit a home run getting you to do this with me. Artie Kempner. If you're not watching Monday Night Football, by the way, folks, you're missing out. Make sure you watch Monday Night Football. You know where to find it. You know all the pregame stuff. Artie Kempner, man, thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Anytime, Pete. You have a great day.
You too, man. That was Artie Kempner, man. That was unbelievable. And to be able to have him share the insight into what goes into Monday Night Football and some of those amazing shows